technology great when it works?
Oh, fantastic. So we're so thrilled to have you. Everybody, please mute. Again, our guests at the Best Business Minds today are Bonnie Harvey and Michael Houlihan, co-founders of Barefoot Spirits. The book was terrific. I don't know if you have a copy of the book that you can show us, but because I have mine in my room. Great. So it's a fantastic book. I actually met Michael maybe 5 years ago when he spoke at Rowan University, and just got reconnected to him again through one of our other guests, wonderful, Laura Sicola, who also was one of our author guests here. So welcome to you both, and hope your day is going well in California. Why did you write this book? You have to unmute. You muted yourself. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
we wrote the book to really save the lessons that we learned, and we learned so many the hard way. We wanted to share them with other entrepreneurs because it's kind of tough being in business, and being a couple in business can have its own particular challenges. So rather than just selling our business, Barefoot Wines, after 20 years of building it, we realized that we really had to keep the Barefoot Spirit alive. And so that's why we called our book The Barefoot Spirit, so we could share the lessons learned.
And we also chose it, Mark, to use a story format. So rather than here's the 3 things you got to do, the 5 things to never do, and the 20 things your customer wants from you, it's more like Michael and Bonnie walked into the room and found out that they'd just been disconnected by the biggest chain in Florida.
Well, I have to tell you something. I've worked, helped marketing Vita, Santa Rita wines, and Vina de Cama and some other wines in Latin America. I thought you people must be insane to go into that.
We were absolutely insane.
We had no idea what we were doing.
It's going to be the hardest business next to getting into the entertainment world to go into. And especially, we have no background. So what made you do it?
We had an opportunity. We had $300,000 that was owed to my client for grapes that he'd grown. He hadn't been paid. And the winery that owed him the money had just declared bankruptcy. So there was no money to collect. But Michael was able to collect bottling services and bulk wine. Now, the grape grower said, I can't take on a new business. I guess I'll just have to take the loss. And we said, well, wait a minute. We'll take the business, we'll take the debt, and we'll bottle all up and sell it to a big chain, pay you off, and then go on about our business. And that was plan A.
Yeah, how hard could that be, right, Mark? How hard could that be?
How long could that take?
Yeah, I was wondering, what were you drinking or smoking when you made that decision?
Yeah. Well, it was before legalization.
I thought so. So what did you both do before you started the business?
We were both business consultants, and we lived in Sonoma County here in the wine country because it was so beautiful here. Not because we were great wine lovers, but because we loved the Russian River, Pacific Ocean, all the parks. So we consulted with a lot of people who were in the wine industry, you know, helping them with their contracts, and I helped to organize their offices, etc.
Were you already partnering before you found this opportunity?
No, we just met, you know, at a rock and roll dance club, you know. You see, back in the old days, you used to have to ask the woman to dance. So I asked her to dance. 1 year later, she's going out having me collect $300,000.
Put him to work, right?
Yeah.
Like, what did mafia or what's going on?
I clearly too much time on his hands. Did you write a business plan for this?
I think I just told you our plan A. We were off and running, so we really didn't have a business plan in writing, but it was to bottle it all up and sell it to the chains.
So there was no formal written business plan when you did this?
Well, our written business plan was the cash flow report.
Yes.
Okay, which we called the cliff report, because it told you how long you could go before you went off the cliff. And if we got it up to 3 months out into the future, we were celebrating.
And how did you finance this business? I mean, you didn't get angel money, you didn't have venture capital money. How'd you finance it?
We started off with $300,000 worth of bulk wine and bottling services. That helped a lot. From there, we really had to be resourceful. So you might think we'd need an office. Well, we couldn't go out and rent an office, so we used our laundry room. We had extra space there where the washer and dryer were supposed to be because we couldn't afford a washer and dryer. So we thought, well, we'll put a desk in there. Couldn't afford a desk either. So we went out to the barn out back and found an old table, washed it up, put it on 2 sawhorses. That was the first desk in the first office of what today is the largest winery in the world.
The other thing that we did was we really made very close friends with our suppliers and got them involved in our business so that they would give us extended terms and reduced interest. After about, say, 2 years, we were able to extend that out to like $600,000, no interest for 6 months.
Michael, you must be, both of you must be the best salespeople in the world because you got all these people to put up stuff when they didn't even need to put up things in order to follow people who've never even, didn't even drink wine.
Well, as we grew, they grew. We needed more supplies.
Yeah.
So they helped to support our growth. We had meetings with them on a regular basis. We'd tell them our challenges, our goals, and our opportunities. And in order for them to grow their business, they had to help us grow ours.
So you sell a heck of a lot more glass on a $6.99 bottle of wine than on a $92 bottle of wine.
Well, and I want to talk about that too, about, I think you call them pigs or something like that, right? These models. But I want to know, how did you differentiate yourself in such a competitive field? Because I think in the book it said there were like 800 wine brands when you got started. Now there's like thousands of them, right? In just California alone.
Yeah.
But 800 there and then competing with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
How did you differentiate yourself?
Well, in the first place, we were fun. There wasn't any fun labels out there to start with. They were very intimidating. So we were non-intimidating. We had a label that they could remember, a logo they'd never forget, and we appealed to a particular buyer that hadn't been addressed before.
And that was the 37-year-old mom with 2.5 kids pushing her cart through a supermarket looking for a staple everyday Tuesday night wine. And she represented about 78% of the wine purchasers, but all the buyers were males. The entire industry was male. So it was a market that just had not been addressed, and we addressed it head on.
And neither of you two are consumer product experts, right? Like when you got started, it wasn't like you went to Wharton or Harvard and worked for P&G or somebody or one of the big wineries and knew how to package this stuff. How'd you learn what to do?
We asked a lot of questions. We asked the supermarket buyers. We asked the bottling line manager. We asked the stock boys what it was that they were replacing on the shelf and what they weren't, and what kind of conversations that they had with consumers. We went to tastings and we talked to the consumer about what they wanted. So by asking a lot of questions of a lot of different people, we tried asking questions of everyone who touched our product along the entire distribution line.
How did you come up with that name?
Well, we, as Bonnie said, we asked lots of questions. We asked several buyers what they needed. We were at least smart enough to know that access to market was more important than anything, because if you couldn't get in, it didn't matter what you had to sell. So we asked them how we could access the market. One of the things they told us was, they said the name has to be the same as the logo. They said the name has to be in plain English. They said the name has to be something that everybody can identify with. Now, these are marketing specialists the hard way, because they're trying to sell product in these big supermarkets, liquor stores, and package stores. So when you ask them their opinion most of them say, nobody ever asked me. So I guess that was our advantage. We weren't from the wine industry. We were humbled, hat in hand, and saying, please help me. What do you need?
I have to say, Michael, in the book, you talked about this guy from Lucky Supermarkets, right? So
Yes.
tell me about that story, because that's really kind of what drove your success in some way in the very beginning.
Very much so, yes.
Tell that story if you don't mind.
Well, first thing we did was we went in there and we asked him what he wanted. And like I said, he said, nobody ever asked me, but I'll tell you. And he said, I need a salt and pepper rack that's better than Bob and cheaper than Bob. Oh, and put it in a pig. Do you got that? I said, yeah, I got that. He says, can you do that? I said, yep, no problem. I had no idea what he was talking about. I went and I talked to my friend and I said, tell me something, what's the salt and pepper act? He says, oh, that's two varietals of wine under the same label, like a red and a white, like Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc. And I thought,
That's what we've got.
that's what we got in the trade from the Barefoot Winery. And so I said, okay. I said, well, who's Bob anyway? And he said, oh, Bob, that's Robert Mondavi. So you got to be better than Bob and cheaper than Bob, right? So that was quite a challenge. And then I said, pray tell me one last thing. What is a pig? He says, oh, a pig. He says, that's the big fat 1.5 liter Magnum. It's not the 750. It's not the fifth. It's not the wine bottle that most people think is twice as big. And I thought to myself at the time, wow, you're telling me that we have access to market with this oversized bottle of wine because that's where there is really little or no competition at this time. Yes, that's what he was saying. So that's what we did. But he didn't take it because nobody ever heard of anything called Barefoot, and he thought the label was too radical. So he told us we had to go out and make a name for ourselves. And we said, well, how are we going to do that? And he says, well, I guess you got to sell every mom and papa and every independent grocery store until this becomes a household word. And I said, well, that's going to take years. And he said, that's right. You better get started.
And you did. How long did it take you to finally get back in this guy's store? And it's a big chain store out in San Francisco.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
That's pretty fast. I mean, 2 years is still a pretty quick time to get in it and win this guy over. And how many bottles did you buy? Like you had, what, 18,000 bottles? Cases.
Yeah.
Cases. Right. So how many bottles is that, by the way?
You have to
Multiply it by 6.
Yeah.
Somebody who's great at math can just whip that number right out for you.
Yeah, it's like 240,000, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So what was the image that you were trying to cultivate here? Because you did go totally different. I mean, there's no chateaus on there. There's no running brooks. There's no any of that stuff.
Well, we wanted an image that was fun, something that was relaxed, something that was comfortable, approachable, something that was non-intimidating.
And something that implied recreation, like if you're barefoot, you're on the beach, you're at the river, you're at the hot tub. It's hard to be uptight when you're barefoot. And at the time, the wine industry was very staid and hands off, they were worshiping the French at the time. And so here we come and say, hey, the heck with that, this is what we're doing in California. And so it was more of a California theme.
I think Yellowtail followed your lead. I think that's how it must have been, because Yellowtail has that kind of fun spirit as well. And they went the same way that you did, and they've become successful also.
Well, feet were already taken, Mark, so they had to go for the tail.
That's right. So Bonnie, you guys didn't, in the book I read that you didn't go to a big ad agency to create your logo. How did that happen?
How did we create the logo?
Yes.
Well, once we had decided on the Barefoot, because that's the way grapes were originally crushed, we gave the basic idea to an artist that we knew, and she created some funny looking feet that weren't going to work at all for us. So I said, well, what I really need is a long, thin foot with a high arch. And she said, well, just give me a picture. I can draw whatever you give me a picture of. So I thought, well, where am I going to find that, a picture of that? And I said, well, I've got one of those feet right here at the end of my leg. So I put my foot on a big piece of artist paper, sent Michael out to get the largest ink pad he could find, and put it on the artist paper and sent that to the artist. And that's how the Barefoot was created.
I know Michael went through a lot of pain developing the kind of the beginnings of it before you brought somebody to professionalize it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he drew it on the blackboard late one evening.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Early one
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, and you kept telling him to move this size and this and make this
Yeah.
longer, wider, and so forth. So that was great. Why was designing the right label critical?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with recognition and, being able to be viewed from 4 feet away, standing out from the thousands of other labels. It's got to be simple. It has to be surrounded by a lot of white space. I mean, you're only given a space that's really only on a bottle, because of the curvature of a bottle, you only have a width of about 2.5 inches to make your point. I mean, maybe 3 inches high, but that's it. That's a very small place to have to make a big statement. So for us, the foot was a solution to a lot of problems. And like the buyer said, the name, the same as the logo, was pure genius. We see so many companies, their logos entirely different than their name. Why not reinforce the two?
I think that's great how you did that. Why are magnum-sized bottles important, and why does that encourage loyalty?
Well, people don't buy a big bottle of potentially bad wine or potentially bad anything. It's always, it's the budget size, it's the volume size. When you buy something of that size, then you're saying, this is my brand. This is what I'm buying to fit this particular need, in my larder, in my household, in my tool shed, whatever. Brand loyalty is a function of volume.
And you also had a wine expert that you were working with from the beginning that was kind of helpful too, because your wine ended up winning awards.
Oh, yes. Our wines won top awards, often against wines that were 2 or 3 times their price. So that was very fortunate. The grape grower that had the debt way back there in the beginning was also a winemaker, a top winemaker. His name's Mark Lyon. He'd worked for Sebastiani as their head winemaker for about 30 years. And yes, he helped us out at the time, and he would create the blends.
But there was another guy too, that even for a while, his last name was part of the wine.
Oh no, he was, okay, you're talking about Bynum.
Yes.
So our friend, who is actually one of our clients, had a brand in Berkeley. He only produced 700 or 800 cases a year for about 4 or 5 years. And it was kind of a novelty brand. And he euphemistically called it Barefoot Bynum because he made it in his garage. So we thought that was a pretty clever name. And that's what inspired us to use the Barefoot.
And we bought the rights to use the name on a wine product. He hadn't used it in 17 years. So there was no value there on the shelf except the value to us in using the foot on the label.
But in 1995, we did hire an excellent winemaker. She was the first female winemaker in the industry. Her name is Jennifer Wall, and she's the most awarded winemaker in the industry today. She still works for our acquirer, E&J Gallo. And Jennifer Wall's background was pre-med at UC Santa Cruz. So she was looking at wine in a microbiological way rather than just an enological or viticultural way.
You said, is there a difference in taste between price points?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, during our period of asking many questions, which really never ended to this day, one expert on wines told us that people taste wine right back here. And I said, what does that mean? He said, it's halfway between what you're thinking in your brain, how your emotions are, what happened to you previously that day, and your taste buds, which are affected by whatever you've had in your mouth recently.
Or what you've been told. So our salesperson, our national salesperson, Randy Arnold, used to say that the difference between Sauvignon Blanc and Fumé Blanc is about $10.95.
It's a dollar amount. It's not necessarily a taste perception.
So, and my other friend, Larry Martin says, he says, where there is mystery, there is margin. And nothing could be more true than in the wine business. But when you're dealing with a 37-year-old mom with 2.5 kids, she wants it to taste the same year after year. She wants a consistent taste profile. She wants it to be soft on the palate. She wants a big mouth feel. She wants fruity. She doesn't want it too sweet. She doesn't want it too sour. And, if you start messing with the flavor profile, she's going to leave you. She's going to say, it just tastes funny, and she's going to buy something else.
Go ahead. I was amazed you never had any celebrity spokespeople. Like, you were able to still, make this, internationally known brand without, having anybody say I drank it before my time or any of that type of thing.
What we had was over 1,000 nonprofits that we supported and community fundraisers. They bragged up our wine. They were our spokespeople. That's how we got the word out about Barefoot without having any money for advertising. We supported nonprofits around the markets where our product was sold. So we had lots of spokespeople.
One group called the Surfrider Foundation, which is made up of basically surfers from their college days who became lawyers and became, scientists and government officials, are committed to cleaning up the beaches and the ocean. We thought, well, you don't want to step on a piece of glass in your barefoot, and you don't want to put your barefoot in a polluted ocean. So they're strategic allies. So we said, tell you what, we'll provide the wine for your fundraisers, and we'll pitch your goals on our bottles with little neck tags. And as a result, we got them to support our product, and they became advocates, not just customers. And so that's the key. How do you turn your customer into an advocate for your brand? If you can do that, you don't need a spokesperson.
Well, how did you pick these nonprofits and 1,000 of them? I mean, it's a lot of nonprofits, and did you give a lot of wine to all of these folks?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, we did.
And so, and that's a huge savings for them as well, having you being a sponsor, providing this wine. So what was your criteria for selecting these nonprofits?
Well, when Bonnie and I got involved in the business, as Bonnie said, we followed an opportunity. Now, a lot of people say, follow your passion. We say, follow your opportunity passionately, which means don't give up on your passions. So, she's from Portland. I'm from San Francisco. We grew up and saw our cities completely explode and just devour all the natural land around them and become tract homes and subdivisions. And so, the kind of wild country that we knew growing up was disappearing. So one of our passions was to support conservation causes. Another one is that Bonnie and I are dual income, no kids. So we have a lot of gay friends. And the fact of the matter is, supporting LBGT is something that just came natural to us. As our friends say, we're straight, but we're not narrow. So the idea is, here you go, dual income, no kids, the gay community, think about it, for wine. Is that a good market or what?
We also supported education, and we supported the arts. We supported a lot of different events. As we grew, we had salespeople in every territory, and we would ask the salespeople to go out and ask the markets, what events, what nonprofits they were interested in, what fundraisers were going on in the community that we could support, that they appreciated. And that helped us with getting more sales, you realize, at the retailer as well.
That's fantastic. One of the things I noticed that you sold a lot through grocery stores. Why grocery stores?
Well, it depends upon what your state is, but every state, there's 27 states in the United States that allow wine to be sold in grocery stores, more and more every day. But, you know, like in Florida, we would be, say, at Food Lion, we would be at Publix, we'd be at Piggly Wiggly, we'd be at all of those chains. You know, if you're in the mid-Atlantic states, you know, we'd be at Harris Teeter.
But that's where the 27-year-old mom was shopping for the groceries and buying her produce for the week. And that's where she bought Barefoot wines for the week.
And
Her
then
weekly staple.
and I was going to say, there's 2 or 3 big companies. One of them is called Kruger's.
Yes.
Kroger's. Yeah, Kroger's is really huge. And of course, Trader Joe's is owned by the German company, and it is very huge as well. Another big one is Albertsons, and they're like in multiple states.
Did you private label for any of these supermarkets as well?
That's a mistake. We didn't do it, but we watched others do it. Because once you do that, you might make that large piece of cash, but for a few dollars more, just like the spaghetti Western, they will hang you. And they say, oh, you know what, you're producing this label for us, but now we got Joe McGillicuddy over here and he'll do it for 50 cents less. Will you do it for 50 cents less, or are we going to give this contract to Joe? And by that time, you're so dependent on them that they can put you out of business. So we recommend to our clients to not ever do any of that, because you're no longer a brand builder. Now you're a supplier.
Yeah, and you don't control it after that. Then it's just,
No.
Right.
just all about a matter of pennies after that. They'll nickel and dime you to death.
Sure.
Yes, exactly.
So what didn't you anticipate that surprised you from getting in this business?
Just about everything.
Is there just one thing?
Well, we had a cute label that everyone could remember, the lowest price gold medal winning product on the market. And what really surprised us is that it just didn't take off immediately. We thought, what's not to love? It took us a while to figure out that every person along the distribution chain has different goals. They've got different things that they want to see, and it's got nothing to do with the quality or price of your product.
Yeah, we were surprised. You know, I was on my hands and knees, and you know, Publix 365 in Tallahassee. I'm the president, CEO, and founder of the company. I'm wearing a suit and tie, but I'm on my knees on the linoleum with the pricing gun in my hand, like the lady that's selling insurance. And I'm pricing my own product because I know that if I don't do it, the clerk won't do it. If the clerk doesn't do it, it won't scan. If it doesn't scan, the big buyer up in Lakeland, Florida is going to say Barefoot's not selling in that unit, and he's going to discontinue it. Now multiply that times 50 states and hundreds of stores, and you get the idea that what surprised us the most was the tremendous amount of merchandising, hands-on, that we had to do to build that brand.
Well, you probably have bad knees from all that time spent on the floor.
We got knee pads.
Yeah, I bet you had knee pads. You also did something really cool. They were putting you in the bottom of the shelf, and you did something to drive people to look at that bottom of the shelf. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, it started off with our really having meetings on a regular basis with our entire staff so we could understand what's going on in the marketplace. We would bring our salespeople in by phone, and we would ask them what their challenges were, what their opportunities were. And everyone on our sales support staff, which was everyone that wasn't in sales, would get together and hear what was going on in each particular territory and discover how we could help them in their challenges. Well, the challenge was that we had a test market in Florida and they'd put us on the bottom shelf and we had to sell like 60 cases in 3 months in these 3 stores, or else we weren't going to be in the big chain of 600 stores. They put us on the bottom shelf because, pardon?
Go ahead.
They put us on the bottom shelf because we were unknown, but that's the last place anybody looks. So someone said, well, we're Barefoot, we'll pick up the foot traffic. Well, that was that was fun to think about, but we still needed something else. So someone else had said, you know, that's not a bad idea. Why don't we get a big decal, a big thing that sticks on the floor with a big purple foot on it? And we can walk people right from the front door when they come in, down through the store into the wine aisle, and then turn them to face the shelf where our product was. And they'd be confused for a little bit. They'd look down to see if they're in the right place at those feet that were on the floor. And that's where they'd see this big sign that says Barefoot with an arrow.
Very creative.
And that idea came from our receptionist. So think about that. We took ideas from everybody because we shared our problems, our goals, our challenges, our opportunities with the entire staff, including the receptionist. And her idea worked so well that we did it throughout all the states. And those decals are kind of hard to pick up. So you might find a few out there in the market yet today.
Now, one of the concepts you talked about in your book was velocity price point. What is that?
Okay, so if it's a camera, you think, oh, $200. If it's a bicycle, you think $600. If it's a car, you think, oh, $25,000. Where did those numbers come from? Why do people have this common understanding of the price of a commodity? It's because that's the price that most of it sells at. In other words, it's the velocity price. It's the price where products move the fastest.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, for instance, if you take a look at the wine business, you see that $6.99 today, in today's market, today's dollars, is where wine moves the fastest. Now, if you're selling it for $9.99, it'll still move, but not as fast as $6.99. $15.99 really slows down. $20.99 really slows down. Okay, so, and then you could sell it under the velocity price point, like $2 chuck or whatever, but now people are going to give you the prejudice and say it can't be good, it's too cheap. In fact, when Barefoot started, our problem was we hit the price point, we hit the velocity price point, but the critics were saying it can't be good, it's too cheap. So then we had to enter every contest in the United States, every wine contest, win gold medals all over the country just to prove different. And it was difficult. So it is not easy to give Americans a good deal.
And why didn't you ever package it differently? Did you ever think of going to Tetra Pak? Because I think I've seen wines in boxes.
Yes, we did. The perception there is the same. It's cheap wine. If it's in a box, it's cheap.
It's $4.99.
And our wine was inexpensive, but it wasn't cheap. It was high quality, award-winning wines. So we didn't have really the time or the advantage to do that kind of experiment and that kind of marketing and that kind of education of our consumer.
I think what Bonnie just said about education is the key. You know, it's missionary work. You know, you might have a solution. You might say, well, this is perfect for boaters and backpackers and backyard barbecues. We could have class without glass. You know, just think of the marketing, but just think of the time that you have to carry that cross, you know, and what happens to you in the meantime. So what's interesting is the millennials are the first generation that have said, I believe that the wine is clear inside this plastic container. I believe it. Now, the older generations, even in the Y, they wouldn't. They had to see the wine, so they had to see it through the glass. So you're dealing with a revolution now in wine packaging because you have a whole new generation that trusts that the product is what it says. You didn't have that kind of trust just 10 years ago.
Does that help the margins, and how thin the margin, what's the profit margin in the wine business? Because for some reason, everybody likes to get into that business. It's like owning a racehorse.
There's a saying in the wine industry, in order to make a small fortune in the wine industry, you start with a large one. Right. So there are a number of people that have started with large fortunes and gotten into the wine industry as a hobby or something that they're doing just for the fun of it. And that's a wonderful attitude. But at $5.99 on the shelf, which is what our product was, the only way we could make a profit was by selling a lot of bottles.
Yeah. And you said in the book that it's not a good thing when the wine flies off the shelf. What do you mean by that?
Well, then you've got an empty shelf.
Yeah.
And nobody can buy your product. One of our biggest problems was being a fast seller. We'd sell out so fast on the shelf that when the shelf became empty and the stock boy, very important to make friends with the stock boy, the stock boy doesn't replace your product on the shelf, then your competition will put their product where yours is supposed to be. And then, obviously you're going to have slow sales. A fast seller can equal a slow seller if you don't replace it on the shelf.
So there's limited bandwidth in retail. I don't care if it's online or in the store, in a bricks and mortar store. They're not building more shelf space. They're not building more page one at Google, see? So the competition to be there is really intense. And if you run out of stock, you're gone right away because the retailer is paying for that space. And so he wants to see a turn on his investment, So yeah, it's interesting. The faster you sell, the more danger you have. In fact, we have clients today who are selling all kinds of products, not just wine products. And they say, oh yeah, I got into such and such a store, and their feet are up and they're smoking a cigar. And we say, you got to get off your butt and get down there and merchandise it in every store. Because if it sells, you're in really big trouble.
And they're probably looking at you like you're nuts. I mean, if
of course,
that's got to be a really good thing. You struck a deal with a Japanese buyer. How did you find international sales? How did you make that happen?
Well, actually, that Japanese buyer found us. And I'm not really sure why, but there was a wave of Japanese buyers over a period of about 6 months that were coming in, and they all seemed to want to meet on weekends. And they had plenty of money and they wanted to buy, but somehow there was some glitch that never made it work. Except this last one, they were very serious. They came in and met with Michael on a weekend.
It was raining.
It was raining inside and outside of our office. We had pails set around to collect the water, so that was a bit distressing for them. But they'd already decided, we found out, to buy the wine. They gave Michael an international letter of credit. The funds were already on deposit. It was just the number of cases that was left blank on the agreement. So that was a good sign.
Yeah, we learned a lot about dealing with the Japanese. The Japanese business mentality is entirely different. Like, for one thing, they weren't buying wine. They were buying a party in a box, only the box was 10 feet or 8 feet wide, 10 feet high, and 20 feet long, an international shipping container. So what would they have in it? Well, they would have a couple of pallets of like potato chips, right? And then they'd have a couple of pallets of dip. And then they'd say, you know what, we need some wine. So they'd go get a couple of pallets. They'd pack all this stuff in the container, ship it off to Japan. And then the other thing that they did that was interesting is the way they would haggle is they would want to keep you there while they haggled with you. And the way they would keep you there is the first thing they would show you was an international letter of credit drawn on the Bank of America in San Francisco for $40,000 in your company's name if you could provide 3 documents, like an ocean-going bill of lading and an invoice and a tax form, then you would get paid by the bank. And then not fill in the amount of product that they wanted to buy for the 40. So now you knew that they were serious, you knew they had money, and it all came down to the amount. What an interesting way to negotiate.
Did you sell other places in the world?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We were in 28 foreign countries when we sold.
We sold
How many years did
Russia.
it take you to get to 28 foreign countries, and what was the hardest?
Russia was the hardest. It took us about 5 years. When you're dealing overseas, you don't want to get in a lawsuit overseas. So almost everything has to be on letters of credit and other financial instruments. But dealing with the Russians was really tough. The way that we did it was really interesting. We dealt with a broker in Georgia who was in the business of helping the Russians buy American products. And so there was this Russian supermarket that wanted Barefoot, and there was a Russian distributor that wanted to carry it for them. So they hired the broker. The broker came and said, now listen, you're not going to believe this. He says, but the Russians have got lots of titanium and they're selling it to Boeing aircraft up in Seattle. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell Boeing not to pay them for the titanium. They're going to pay you, and then you're going to pay them with wine.
Wow. That's a book unto itself. That almost sounds
I
like
know.
a
It's like-
novel.
I know. That's the next book.
Yeah. So why didn't you ever buy a winery?
Well, we didn't have the money, for one thing.
And we have more sense.
And we had more sense than to buy a winery or a vineyard because we were making sales. That's where we put our time and energy and our efforts. And that's where our staff spent their time also, was making sales. There was plenty of vineyards that had excess product that were selling it. They had plenty of wineries that were doing bottling for other people. We couldn't come up with a good reason why we should.
Yeah, you don't want to have that monthly millstone around your neck that says, pay me whether or not you've made sales. So we were really big on minimizing overhead. We outsourced everything we could except for quality control, accounting, and sales. Those are the 3 things that we kept in-house.
I thought it was interesting that you were kind of ahead of your time in terms of only producing what you needed to produce. You were like
Yes.
Dell Computer. You weren't, producing all this stuff and putting it in warehouses and then trying to sell it. Why did you do it that way?
Again, it's finances. We did things that we had to do. We came up with a formula. It took a while to come up with that, about projecting sales and how much we'd need of each varietal and each size. And we had just-in-time bottling, we called it.
Yeah, and one of the factors in the formula was whatever the salespeople said they were going to sell, we would cut that in half.
So why did you guys finally decide to sell out to A&J Gallo?
Okay. It wasn't finally. We actually wanted to sell out on day one, if you remember, fast backward. But the thing is, we have clients today that we try to take through transitions, and we tell them to do something we didn't do for at least 7 years, and that is take a broker to lunch and ask the broker if he sold a winery or a business that is just like yours in the last 1 year. Who did he sell it to? What was the market share? What was the cash flow? What was the growth year on year? What was the inventory? What were the assets? All of those kinds of questions. Once you get the answer to that, then you know what you have to do to become an acquisition target. So it isn't that you choose to sell. It isn't that Mr. Big knocks on your door. It's that you become an acquisition target because of the metrics. So the question is, what are the metrics? So in our business, at a $5.99 bottle of wine, the metrics were 500,000 cases a year, or they will not talk to you. And so it's in every business, there's a metric. And so for us to achieve that, we didn't have the luxury of having any other goals.
Mhm.
You know, people say, well, what are your goals? Well, as we say, it's acquisition metrics. You know, how much of our acquisition metric can we achieve this year and hold on to and build on to for next year? And so consequently, you know, we knew that we wanted to be acquired, and we knew that there was 5 in every industry. There's only 5 or 6 buyers at the most, because we're living in the days of consolidation, of production, of distribution, of retail. It's all consolidation. So you get down to a few players, so you know who the player is or who they might be. The question is, how do you get your peanut in front of that elephant, right?
Yes.
You know, how do you get their attention? So that's a whole strategy that we teach, but that's a real tricky game.
What was the process like going through selling the business? And how long did you stay involved after the sale?
Well, Bonnie, why don't you tell them the process,
Well,
since you did it?
the process was, first of all, as you say, getting your peanut in front of the elephant. And we did that by putting our product in a couple distributorships where Gallo was really big. So once they discovered that we were out there and we talked to our broker, he made it very clear that we had to have their due diligence, all the paperwork that they were looking for, ready when they asked for it. So he told us what to expect. We gathered up that information, and it is not easy. You know I've got the sign off from the artist for that foot someplace in my attic. I'll just go find it, and you just stay there and be interested while I hunt through my attic. No, you can't do that. As a business owner, when you're preparing for acquisition, you want to start on day one. You want to have all your documents in order, and you've got different departments. You've got your legal, marketing, sales, management, personnel. Everything is in different stacks. And so we had lots of paperwork to hand over to them so their different departments could look at it. And that was a big part of the process, was being more prepared for the sale. And when you are prepared like that and you present it to your potential acquirer, they know that you're prepared for a sale. So if they don't get your product, your company, then their competitor will. So that sends a good sign, good signal.
We call it a silent auction.
Yeah.
Did you play them off against anybody else? I mean, usually the best way to get the best deal, or because they were chasing you, that you were able to get the best possible deal.
Well, basically, they were chasing us until we caught them. But the bottom line is, the commonly held misconception is you get the best deal when you have an auction. But the reason you don't is because your sales manager finds out about it and leaves. Your buyer says, I'm going to wait to see what the new owner is going to do in terms of quality and price. So I'm not going to buy from you this month, or I am going to buy from you this month at half the price because now I have you over the barrel. I read in the paper you were for sale, and now you're dead meat because what you're really selling is my purchases. I'm the retailer. I'm buying from you. If I stop buying from you, you have nothing to sell. And so basically you want to do this secretly. You want to do this quickly. You know, you can lose millions of dollars of equity just because it takes too long to do due diligence. So the way you create that competition, like Bonnie says, is you're prepared. You go into them and you say, listen, we're going to give you 2 weeks to review this. You have the right of first refusal. If you don't want it, fine. But here is a package for your lawyers. Here's a package for your, your engineers. Here's a package for your marketing people. Here's a package for your high-tech people. Here's a package for your HR people. And so you have all these packages and you say, now, can you do this in 2 weeks? Yes. So they do it. 2 weeks later, they ask for 3 more days. Okay. 3 more days, they ask for 1 more day because they know that if they say no, that what's going to happen is it's going to go to their competitor. So you have the advantage of an auction without declaring an auction. Mm-hmm. They all know who each other are.
And one of the things I thought interesting is you've been together as a couple for how long?
37 years.
Okay, and you didn't kill each other along the way because you're both here today. How did you manage that?
Well, first of all, other people going into business, we've talked a lot to family businesses, and what we say is, kids, don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Most couples will fail. They'll fail at their marriage, or they'll fail at their business, or fail at both. What we did won't work for everybody, but it worked for us. First of all, we have different skill sets. So we didn't interfere in each other's skill set. We also work in different offices, very important. We have certain places such as the bedroom where we don't talk about business. And we plan vacations where we don't do any business, and we plan these vacations about a year ahead of time. And I lock them in by getting non-refundable tickets. So those are a few of the tips. I think we've got about 12 or 18 tips for family and couples in business. Yes.
You're muted, Mark. You're muted.
Can't hear you, Mark.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
There are a few things I wanted to ask you before I asked you the final question, which is what are you doing now? But there are a few things that you talked about in the book. You have the phrase, use whatever you have. What does that mean?
Be resourceful. It's like using your laundry room for an office and an old door for a desk. We also used my mother. She came to live with us and helped us take care of so many things. My nephew, he had a truck. You also have to think, like we did, about our skill set. These were our resources and how we used them. Our accounts payable, our suppliers, we used them. We were resourceful by telling them what our challenges were and how they could grow with us. By working with the nonprofits in the communities. They're all there. You just have to open your eyes and take inventory, see what it is that you have and make the best use of it. Instead of going out there and borrowing money, which we didn't do, and having expensive advertising, which we didn't do, because of our resources and asking a lot of questions and being open with people, we got a lot of support.
And there's another term you use, bricks falling out of the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the first time we saw it was in an old British movie, where Rodney is sitting in the men's club and he's reading, the Daily Mail, and he leans over and he says, "Oh, Edgar," he says, "have you had your brick for the day?" And then he shows them this article about how the English are getting their butt kicked in South Africa. See, it's like stuff like that. The brick falls out of the sky. You get your brick for the day.
It's the last thing you expect,
Yeah.
is what it was. And when it hits you on the head, it hurts.
Yeah. Like we had no idea that people who had a financial interest in our product were too lazy to actually do the work to make the money, and that we had to do the work for them. We had no idea. We had no idea that there were government agencies that we didn't know about who could shut us down. We had no idea that if we sold in a state like Oregon, that I would have to register up there like some kind of a criminal, because it was alcohol beverage, and that's how Oregon licenses were. Interesting.
So my last question to you both, and thank you so much for your time, and you guys were great. We could have spent all afternoon with you. What are you doing now?
Oh, this is what's...
We have a very exciting project that we're doing now. It's called Business Audio Theater. Go ahead, Michael.
So this is kind of like, when you own a business, you're faced with the future. You're faced with how are you going to preserve your legacy? And you're also faced with the two biggest problems that business face today, and that is lack of engagement and turnover. They're the two highest hidden costs in business, right? Because you don't just lose your person, you lose your corporate training, you lose all your relationships, you could lose your customers, right? And so we've developed this 1945 style radio show approach to an audio book. So we call it Business Audio Theater. It just won the audio award for the top 5 audiobooks in the country for 2020 in New York by the Audiobook Publishers Association. And it's been written up in Forbes and all over the place. But what we're doing is we're listening to founders' stories. We're taking the stories that exemplify the founder's principles that the founder really wants to see emulated in the founder's staff going forward in history. And we're turning it into an onboarding tool. Welcome to our company. Listen to this audiobook. But it's not just an audiobook where somebody's reading it to you. We actually have Hollywood actors acting it out.
And sound effects. It's very entertaining. You should check it out.
So we took our own book, The Barefoot Spirit, that we talked about, and converted it into audio theater. And it's available now at Audible and everywhere that audiobooks are sold. And it's really popular with the younger generation because they can be mobile. They don't have to be tethered to their screen. It's great for companies that have like an at-home workforce. You know, it's hard enough to get people to get into company culture when they're in the office, but now that they're working remotely, how do you get them excited? How do you get them engaged? So we think what you do is you give them a performance, you give them a play where the founder is the star. And the founder does all kinds of things wrong. He has all kinds of foibles. Things happen. He learns his lessons, or she does, and they finally get to the point where they have this, $75 million company, and you've got the $200,000 job. So that's what we're doing right now. We're very excited about it. It's the most exciting thing we've ever done. And we tell our story all the time, and it's just so much fun to listen to other founders tell their stories.
It's called Business Audio Theater.
Oh, and we're going to give everybody who signs up on your platform, we're going to give them a link so they can listen to a free chapter.
I was going to ask you for that, so I will get that out to 10,000 for you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And it was a pleasure to have you today. You guys were terrific. We look forward to hearing the next chapter and your success story here. And I think somebody wrote this, your story should be made into a movie. And I have a friend of mine, it's a producer in Hollywood. Has anybody approached you about making this into a movie?
Well, yeah, you know how Hollywood works. You know how Hollywood doesn't work. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the rest. Thank you for coming on today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch up again soon.
I want to thank everyone for their comments. I've been reading them here. So I appreciate your support, and I hope we've entertained you and educated you.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much again. Take care.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you all.